Joining us is Joel Gilbert with breaking news at Infowars.com and WorldNetDaily.com. Obama's brother says he's dishonest and abandoned the family. He is the documentary filmmaker of Dreams of My Real Father, and he's gotten an exclusive, in-depth interview with the brother, the half-brother of Obama, breaking his silence. And we have several clips here that we're going to be able to play of his interview with his half-brother in a moment. But this is important information, and documentary filmmaker Joel Gilbert joins us. He was going to be on a week and a half ago, but they pushed the story back to do even more research and to dig even deeper. So they've got even more intel now. JoelGilbert.net. You can find his films at InfoWarsStore.com. Dreams of My Real Father, and there's no place like hell on earth. I mean, utopia. But right now we go to our guest with this breaking information, Joel Gilbert.
Hi, Alex. Great to be here. As I told you about a week and a half ago, I had a big interview I was completing. This was based on my reaching out to Malik Obama, the alleged half-brother of Barack Hussein Obama. And I sent Malik a copy of my DVD of Dreams from My Real Father. And he watched the film immediately. And he told me at that time that this might be an explanation for why Barack was so close to the Kenyan family, and he made such a big deal about them politically for his political career, wrote a book about the Kenyan Obama. And as soon as he was elected president, Malik reports that Barack shunned the Kenyan family, didn't want anything to do with them, and that they've been so confused. And when you play these clips, we're going to hear from Malik really letting loose and explaining what he thinks really is going on based on his relationship. Don't forget, Malik Obama was Obama's best man at his wedding and vice versa. Obama invited him to Chicago to his community organizing events. Malik is the one that brought Barack to Kenya, took him to the father's grave. Even if you watch the video, the full video on YouTube or ObamasRealFather.com, Malik explains that Barack sent him his manuscript of Dreams from My Father, which had a different title at the time, and asked him to edit it. So Malik was very close to Barack, so he's very hurt and confused as to why, as soon as he made this big deal about the Kenyan relatives for his political definition of who he was, he dropped them right when he got elected.
Well, the way that he's turned and become a different person
God, looks nothing
for
like
the
him.
family
I mean,
is the same way that I see him behaving politically. He says one thing and then he does another. He's not an honest man, as far as I'm concerned, in who he is and what he says and how he treats people.
How has that made you feel as the oldest brother in the family?
Disappointed. Disappointed, used and also betrayed. In the beginning, I didn't think that he was a schemer. His real character, his real personality, the real him is coming out now.
Malik, I sent you my movie a few months ago, Dreams from My Real Father. When did you first watch it?
When you sent it to me.
So do you think that Barack looks like Frank Marshall Davis? This is a man that he said raised him more than your father.
There's a great resemblance. Yeah, I think Frank Marshall Davis and Barack, they look alike. Some kind of moles I see on his face, and Frank, he has those too. There's a resemblance.
And does he resemble your father?
Not really. I don't, they say about the years and, no. Your movie definitely, puts a lot of questions in my mind.
Well, would you like to see or do a DNA test one day to know for sure?
That would really prove, whether we're related or not. Yes, I would be willing to do that. I don't know how I would deal with it if it really came out that there's a fraud or a con.
Well, regardless, this shows he's a total sociopath, or maybe worse, that people he's known for decades His dad certainly dated his mother, looked like nothing like her. The government threw him out saying he wasn't the dad. And people forget all this. Frank Marshall Davis is where Obama would live during the summers, looks just like him. I mean that you cover that in your film. It's undoubtedly his father.
Correct.
But to then just throw his adoptive family away just shows an incredible cold-bloodedness. But I'm taking away from what he's saying that Barack's half-brother says he may not be his brother after all. This is just bombshell. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, absolutely. You'll see when we play the clips. Malik says that Barack looks like Frank Marshall Davis and nothing like his father.
Incredible.
Malik also said he wants to do a DNA test now, maybe have a DNA showdown, I call it, and see what the truth is, because he is so hurt. You feel sorry for these Kenyan Obamas that they were used and humiliated when he dropped their connection. Malik tells in the video the story of when Aunt Zaitouni died. He went to the White House and he asked Barack to contribute. They needed $20,000 to take her body from Boston back to Kenya for a funeral. And Malik tells the story that Barack told him that she deserved what she got, and that was too much money. He also told me privately that Barack said, "I'm not Bill Gates." So the result was Aunt Zaitouni was stuck in Boston for a full month where they had to raise money from the public. And Malik just says he was very hurt because Aunt Zaitouni came to the senatorial inauguration. She came to the presidential inauguration. She accepted him when he came to Boston when he was in school.
But she was a prop to be used and then discarded. Just unprecedented. We're going to play these clips. The full interview just went up on your website. But I am rarely this stunned because it's clearly his dad. He comes out in the book and says he owes everything to him, and his grandfather was best buddies with him, and then his mother clearly posing in photos with him. I mean, why would he be spending the summer with him as a small child? It's his son. When Obama talks about him, it looks like he almost cries in these speeches. And then now the family that looks nothing like him, but who they'd kind of adopted, is just thrown away. Why would he be so arrogant and just throw these props away?
Well, always in these situations, the family is the last to realize it or admit it as to what happened. The family finally gets it, that it's just part of their game plan. The whole socialist Marxist playbook is use people with a big lie to take power. And once you take power, the ends justifies the means. They're just old baggage. And that's what the Kenyan Obamas have unfortunately, I think, come to realize. They've seen Dreams from My Real Father. They all agree that Obama looks just like Frank Marshall Davis. And they're saying that only a DNA test can solve it at this point because they just think there has to be an explanation for why he made such a big deal out of them as his political base, and now he wants nothing to do with them. It's very sad. It's a very sad story. Malik is a good guy. I have to also add that a lot of the reporting about him being involved with all these questionable characters, he shows up with a guru in India or with Muslim Brotherhood or with the Jehovah's cult in Texas. What's really happened is because Barack broke his promises from Malik's point of view to help the village and help the family, he's trying to go wherever he can. Whenever they invite him to go talk to a group, he'll go. So he's a little bit naive.
And that's a classic spin thing. Like I go on Japanese TV, and therefore I secretly work for the Japanese government. But here's the deal. This brother was close to him. He used him politically. Now he won't talk to him. He looks nothing like these people. I mean, it'd be like if I had a kid with a white lady and the kid came out and was black. I'd say, or was Hispanic. I had nothing against it. that's not my child. I mean, these people look nothing like Obama. His dad is a spitting image, Frank Marshall Davis. And then he says he shaped him. He lived with him. It's his daddy. Then we got photos of him with his mother. But what's incredible is Dr. Corsi, I really respect him, WorldNet Daily, in many ways, pantheon of journalism. I don't think they're being hardcore enough with their headline that Obama's half-brother, Obama discarded us. The story is, I want a DNA test. You may not really be my family. You look like Frank Marshall Davis. Wow. I mean, talk about a house of cards. They put in his Harvard Law Review that he edited and Michelle's statements and all of it that he was born in Kenya so that later when it didn't add up, we would get upset and go after that instead of what was hiding in plain view. There's no doubt you're right. This is just added cherry on top. Joel Gilbert, this is so huge. I think the headline on this story in the video we're going to do should be Obama's half-brother wants DNA test to prove that he's actually family, thinks that he's Frank Marshall Davis's son, subheadline. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, I would agree. The Kenyan story was cover because Obama could never have been elected if he said my father was a Communist Party propagandist and Soviet agent who worked on behalf of the Soviet Union to try to organize the unions to expel U.S. forces from Hawaii to allow for Soviet expansion in Asia. And that's what his father did. And he was radicalized. If Obama said, I was radicalized into this Marxist ideology in my teenage years while I was drinking and smoking pot with my dad, Frank Marshall Davis, please elect me president. I'm going to support the Constitution.
So all he did was cut out my dad. The only thing he cut out in the speech that we're going to play later is my dad. We played it last week. But he literally sat at the feet as a child up to a teenager with Frank Marshall Davis, the spitting image that his grandpa's best friends with, that he lived with. I mean, this is hiding in plain view. And of course, they had to have a cutout for the left that he was an immigrant. Then that story doesn't fit, so we go after it. This is incredible. You deserve the Pulitzer Prize.
Well, thank you. I think, look, Obama engaged in misdirection. He uses misdirection and outright lies to hide the reality. Don't forget, he ran as a mainstream candidate. I'm going to cut the deficit in half. I'm going to support Israel. I'm against gay marriage. It was all mainstream, but it was an intentional deception. Just like I show in my movie, There's No Place Like Utopia, the Wizard of Oz never intended to keep any of those promises. Obama's intentional deception is the fraud of the century that's been perpetrated on the American people, and the Kenyan Obamas are now onto it. They're onto it.
There's another headline. Oh, Kenyan Obama's now on to the fact that he's an imposter and a fraud. He's a Davis. He's got the last name of the Confederate founder. You can't make this stuff up, man. I'm telling you, I know you're right. I've seen both your films. I've researched it. And I remember saying when day one, the birth certificate had like 6 layers. And it was the font of Microsoft that's the fake typewriter font, you know, because each typewriter font is like a snowflake. It's different. They were all identical. It was totally fake right there. I was like, why is it such a bad forgery? Because it was meant to make us go crazy like mad dogs after a steak.
Right. The question never was, where's the birth certificate? The question was, who is the real father? And if you ask the right question, you can find the right answer.
Exactly. They threw a fake question out to divert us.
Right. And I like to tell people now that all this time we've been complaining about Obama, but if you listen to Malik Obama in the interview, he's been treating us like family all this time.
He's really Barry Davis.
He's Barry Davis, Frank Marshall Davis Jr., not just the fact that Obama lied to misdirect us, but he hid the fact that he was radicalized into a Marxist ideology that sees the world completely different from mainstream America. He believes America is the source of all problems in the world. He believes that capitalism and free markets and free speech, freedom of religion are all negative things.
And he wants to fulfill his father's dream. You know, the media is going to, I predict they're going to ignore this because it's right on target. When I would cover the birth certificate stuff and say, all I know is it's fake, all I know is he said he was from Kenya. I don't know if he really is, but here's a video of him saying he's from Kenya. Here's his wife saying it. Here he is in the Harvard Review that he edited over and over again saying, I'm from Kenya. He ran on the Senate in Illinois on that, so don't get mad at me. Meanwhile, the whole time he was Frank Marshall Davis Jr. Let's go to a clip of him from C-SPAN talking about his father, Frank Marshall Davis. And then we'll go back to the crew.
And the passage finally ends with me having a conversation with a close friend of my maternal grandfather, a close friend of Gramps, a black man from Kansas named Frank. And so I have a discussion with him about the kinds of frustrations I'm having, and he sort of schools me on that I should get used to.
Frank Marshall Davis's son is now president and is now running the country into the ground deliberately. I mean, that's why they say truth is stranger than fiction. This is so sensational, and you can just see the truth. You can feel it. Joel Gilbert, I can almost not continue broadcasting at this point. What do we even do about this? I mean, it just totally makes sense now, everything that's happening.
Well, unfortunately, we've had a media as well as an adoring crowd of Democrats and others that have been willing to follow Barack Obama into oncoming traffic, no matter how horrific the situation is internationally, no matter how horrific the economy is. They simply use the tools of state, the IRS, the press office, to lie about everything. Unemployment is 5%. We support Israel. There's peace in the world. It's an era of disinformatia, Soviet-era disinformation. And that's what you get from a man whose father was a Bolshevik and a Soviet agent, and someone who was indoctrinated into this ideology. We just have to keep on keeping on, Alex. You're doing a great job. And if Rome could survive Nero, we should be able to survive Obama for another year and a half. And hopefully a new administration can turn around all the damage that's been done.
Well, Joel Gilbert, I've been jumping in here a lot and making some good points, but hyperventilating at the same time. Spend a few minutes, recap how you discovered this, how you made the film, the bombshell, and I'm getting chills, and then now what this means as the family begins to come out and say, we always said he didn't look like us. We want a DNA test. It was already really weird with my uncle. Yeah, he dropped us like a hot potato. Yeah, I mean, that is amazing.
Yeah, well, how I got into it, I made a film about the Iranian nuclear program called Atomic Jihad, Obama's Politics of Defeat. That was 2010. And like a lot of people, I would read Jerry Corsi and Jack Cashill's writings about the birth certificate, and they never had an answer. And I said to myself simply, if they can't find the answer, they're not asking the right question. But I didn't know what the question was. So I read about this guy named Frank in Dreams of My Father, in Obama's biography, and it was filled with references to this mentor named Frank. And I read online, they said he thought it was Frank Marshall Davis, this communist in Hawaii. So I simply bought Frank's autobiography called Livin' the Blues, and it's full of photos. And as a person who does film and graphics, I'm looking at these photos of Frank Marshall Davis. They look just like Obama. And it was just clicked that this Kenyan story was just a cover for a radical ideology. Once I realized that, I realized America was in grave danger. And I decided that I have to commit myself to looking further into this and getting all the information I can. And right at that moment, I said, I'm going to make a movie about Frank Marshall Davis, about Obama's real life story in the dreams from his real father.
And then in the process, you get contacted and they give you the porn photos of Mama in the house with Davis and other women, because he funded himself with porn. A communist did that. And,
Correct.
and then there's photos of Obama sitting on the same couch with the same pictures. I mean, we got Obama sitting on the porn shoot couch.
Exactly.
I mean,
well,
we've got him at every level.
Yeah, we don't even need those photos. There's 20 or 30 pieces of evidence that shows that Barack Obama's father is Frank Marshall Davis. More important, there's a ton of evidence and a mountain of evidence I show in the film that Davis became his ideological mentor and radicalized Obama in his youth. The nude photos simply show the opportunity for that relationship to have taken place. And the photos show all these different strippers, Hawaiian, Portuguese looking, American. We see Frank Marshall Davis's jacket in the background, the floorboards match, the jazz records match, Anne's face matches, everything matches. So between all of that and all the other evidence, it's clear that Frank Marshall Davis is the biological father. Now, that would have been fine if he hadn't been radicalized, or if Barack had learned later that everything his father told him was a bunch of bunk and it was destructive and irrelevant. But he simply stayed in that world of American Marxism that no one really knows about, went to New York, then Chicago with the Ayers family, where Bill Ayers' family brought him into Chicago, where he was in the radical groups like Acorn, Midwest Academy, and has lived his life as this American radical. And he simply decided, he learned the lesson from his mentor, Bill Ayers. Bill Ayers would look you in the eye in the late 60s and say, we're going to destroy the Constitution. We're going to bring down America. That didn't work because it was evil. They threw him in jail. His buddies got thrown in jail. They had to go in the underground for 10 years. Bill Ayers taught him the lesson when he came out of the underground, the early 80s. He said, look people in the eye and don't tell them the truth. Tell them you want to help people. Tell them you want to help families. Call them folks. And you'll get people to support you. When you take power, you can begin the work of destruction that they laid out in the 60s to bring down America.
Bastards. And now they admit Cloward and Piven. They admit everything. They are so evil. And the elites are allowing them to do this. The big foundations are involved. They believe out of this communist revolution, they're going to get their world government. This is such a nightmare. Both your films are available at InfoWarsStore.com, but also on your websites. You've got several. Which one is the best to go? Oh, we haven't even gotten to the Malik Obama clips. We're going to have to hold you over. Let's go ahead and go to the first clip right now. Which one is that? Which one should we go to first?
This is the one where he talks about Barack's real character is coming out now, the first one.
Yeah, let's go to Barack's real character is coming out now, his supposed brother. Here it is.
Well, the way that he's turned and become a different person
God looks nothing
with
like
the
him.
family
I mean,
is the same way that I see him behaving politically. He says one thing and then he does another. He's not an honest man, as far as I'm concerned, in who he is and what he says and how he treats people.
How has that made you feel as the oldest brother in the family?
Disappointed. Disappointed, used and also betrayed. In the beginning, I didn't think that he was a schemer. His real character, his real personality, the real him is coming out now.
wow, we're going to go to break. If Joel could stay 5 more minutes, finish up with the other clip, let him make a final comment. Then we're going to go to Joe Biggs and Jakari Jackson with their take on the Jade Helm takeover drills taking place this summer. The kickoff of the PSYOP is beginning now. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in the Twilight Zone. Finishing up with Joel Gilbert, then Joe Biggs is joining us from Bastrop outside Austin, the headquarters of the Southcom, Northcom Joint Forces takeover drills set for this summer. And the PSYOP's now in full swing, telling the public, we've never heard of a plan to take on the Tea Party or gun owners. What? No way! Then the videos come in from all over the country as the training intensifies. They're up on Infowars.com. And I'm telling you, Obama and the globalists could set off weapons, blame it on patriots. I mean, the sky's the limit. They're not going to go easily. Finishing up, Joel Gilbert, lead us into this other clip where he talks about not even thinking he may be his brother.
Well, I reached out to Malik Obama and sent him my DVD, Dreams from My Real Father, in Kenya, sent him a copy. He watched it right away, and he told me on the phone, he said, look, Barack looks just like Frank Marshall Davis. And he said, maybe this explains why he was so close to me all my life and then wants nothing to do with me anymore or the rest of the Kenyans. So it's almost a sad story when you watch the interview with Malik. They've all come to realize that they've been conned just like the rest of us.
Well, and I've studied a whole African culture as well. The Kenyans are some of the most patriotic, smart, upstanding, noble groups in Africa. And I don't know how they couldn't see he looks nothing like them. I mean, these people look nothing like him. His dad looked nothing like him.
Right. And the worst thing is in American culture, if you stop talking to a relative, we all have a relative we maybe don't talk to, it's not considered such a big deal. In Kenyan culture, you have to give the respect to the oldest brother. He's the patriarch of the family. And if anyone who disowns the family or doesn't respect the older brother, it is considered a big humiliation. And Obama's going to Kenya, I think, in July, and he hasn't contacted Malik. There's no plans to see him, and it's terribly demeaning in this culture. So he says that Obama has just been extremely hypocritical, and he's turned his back on them, and it's an extremely...
Well, that's because it's not his family, and I'm glad they're starting to wake up. I mean, if somebody was supposedly my brother looked nothing like me, I'd be like, you're... Buddy, we don't have the same daddy. I'm here to tell you. I'm no rocket scientist, but I can tell. It's kind of like the character King of the Hill, where his kid looks nothing like him, but he has no idea his wife's been cheating on him for 10 years. Let's go ahead and go to this final clip.
Malik, I sent you my movie a few months ago, Dreams from My Real Father. When did you first watch it?
When you sent it to me.
So do you think that Barack looks like Frank Marshall Davis? This is a man that he said raised him more than your father.
There's a great resemblance. Yeah, I think Frank Marshall Davis and Barack, they look alike. Some kind of moles I see on his face, and Frank, he has those too. There's a resemblance.
And does he resemble your father?
Not really. I don't, they say about the years, and no. Your movie definitely, puts a lot of questions in my mind.
Well, would you like to see or do a DNA test one day to know for sure?
That would really prove, whether we're related or not. Yes, I would be willing to do that. I don't know how I would deal with it if it really came out that there's a fraud or a con.
Amazing. Full interview up on your website. Give us the best site to visit to get the full interview. We're going to link it all right now to Infowars.com. Joel Gilbert.
Yeah, please hit ObamasRealFather.com, ObamasRealFather.com, and right up on the top right, you can see the full video. It links into YouTube. JoelGilbert.net, it's there also. So either one, and the Kenyon family is on to the scam, and it's unfortunate, but like he said, that the way that he's treated America politically, that is deception. Say one thing and do another. He's done with the family as well.
And then his cousin is running the Muslim Brotherhood there and trying to turn the country over as terror attacks hit. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. Thank you so much, Joel Gilbert.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
That's just an over-the-top interview. We're going to get Joe Biggs connected right now and go to him. I just don't know what to say. If you go back to the videos we did on the day that birth certificate was released, and the way the media played it up when it was so obviously fake and something didn't add up, and we were going with that he wasn't born here, and then they put out that fake birth certificate to throw us off the trail, and all I kept saying is, they're lying, these are forgeries, I don't know what's behind it, but it's not true. And I said over and over again, we can find the video, we don't know who his daddy is. He doesn't look like him. Something else is going on here. I never came out and said, 100%, this is a Kenya deal. I said his whole past is bizarre. The fake names, the mosque in Indonesia, the Barry Soetoro, the grandfather, the CIA, the Frank Marshall Davis, the weirdness of a CIA high-level guy summer after summer leaving his grandson when the mother is out of town doing work for the CIA with a top communist. And then, by the way, Frank Marshall Davis, if you look him up, was of mixed race. And a lot of times you splice white genetics with black genetics, you get those moles. And Obama's got that again in the exact same spots as Frank Marshall Davis. I mean, he's got the moles in the same spots. I mean, he's got his daddy's spots. I mean, I don't look like that much like my dad. I look like my daddy. You see me and my dad, you go, this is your father. Yes, looks just like me. Just not as big and doesn't and as fat as me. That's it. They go, that's your daddy, isn't it? Yeah. Looks just like me. But I don't look as much like Obama as Frank Marshall Davis. In fact, if you look up earlier Frank Marshall Davis photos when he wasn't old and compare him to Obama, it is just stunning. Absolutely stunning. And they always cover Obama up in TV interviews to cover the moles he's got all over his face, but they both had about 15 moles on their cheeks. I mean, in the same spots. In fact, Davis even had a larger mole up on the side of his nose. Obama had one even bigger. I mean, right in the same spot. Man, that's crazy. That is his daddy. Look at the ears. Look at the chin. Look at the neck. Look at the hair. Look at the skull. I mean, that is his daddy.